I'm kind of in disbelief right now. My video on Friday literally just went up when I'm filming this. It's been 12 minutes and just like the amount of comments I've gotten already is actually ridiculous. Damn, I did not think y'all would be that interested in that video. Typically when I post anything that's not a scary story or a story time, I just assume that a vast majority of you like won't care about it. And not to say that you guys don't like the variety in my videos, but I just know that a lot of people on my channel like to stick to the scary stories and stuff like that. And so whenever I get a response like this on a video, I'm always just shocked for some reason. I don't know why. If you guys didn't watch that video, I highly recommend it. I've kind of come out of my comfort zone a little bit recently and I'm starting to talk about topics that are a little bit controversial because I'm just so sick of sitting behind the scenes and pretending like all this stuff is okay when it's really not. That's not what we're talking about today. Hey y'all. I also feel like I've been forgetting to say hey y'all a lot, but we're just gonna ignore that. I'm back and I have more of your guys' paranormal stories that I'm very excited to read. I told you guys last week that I would read more of your stories this week because I only read like 2 stories in that video. And so I have the other 2 stories that I'd prepared to read, and then I also picked out, I think, like 1 more. But they're pretty long, so it's fine. And I'm already sweating my ass. I'm turning my air on. I've stopped caring. I care a little bit, but I'm gonna turn my hair. I also really love that I tell myself that I'm gonna change and I'm not gonna look like a 5-year-old anymore, and then I braid my hair. And I don't know why I keep doing it. I really don't. It always seems like a better idea at the time. It's fine. The first story that I'm gonna read seemed really interesting to me personally, but I was gonna ask you guys, because a lot of you liked my Alcatraz video, if you wanted me to do like an Alcatraz ghost stories video. Obviously it wouldn't be the same because I wouldn't have the footage from it, but I could talk about all the ghost stories and then I could tell people's paranormal experiences, the ones that I can find online. Let me know if you want to see it, but this story is called I Lived in a Civil War Hospital, and I was like, oh my god. They said, I'm not really sure how to explain it, but I'm gonna try the best that I can. I grew up on the top floor of a small apartment building in my town, which is 25 to 30 minutes away from Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. I'm gonna try to describe the layout a bit so you can hopefully understand the story a bit better. My bedroom is on the far left of the house, right next to a bathroom at the end of a small hallway. If you were coming out of the bathroom, walking down the small hallway and turning left, there's a large staircase leading to our front door and a long hallway. There's a lot of hallways. There's a big hallway and there's a small hallway. If you walk past the staircase in the hallway, there are 2 bedrooms and then a living room at the end of the hallway. Take a shot every time I say hallway. The layout is confusing because the apartment took up the top floor, so I'm just explaining what's necessary. Let me get into the actual story. My uncle, my brother, and I were the ones to experience any paranormal activity in this house, specifically in my bedroom. My uncle and my brother would constantly hear walking in the hallway. They were in the bedrooms that led to the hall. The walking was always loud and sounded as if somebody was walking with a heavy pair of boots on. We assumed it was a soldier walking around. Now, like I said earlier, my room had the most activity. On multiple occasions, I was thrown out of my bed, 0 to 100. I was always found a couple feet away from my bed. You didn't wake up, they just found you there. They walk in and they're like, what was that noise? They're like, oh shit, she's 10 feet away from her bed again. Bitch got thrown against the wall. How did you not wake up? And my brother had to pick me up and put me back in bed. One time he had friends over and it happened, so he left and put me back in bed like usual, but it happened again, and his friends came with him and saw me in the middle of my bedroom on the floor. I'm gonna ask again, how the fuck did you not wake up? Now for the really creepy stuff. As if getting chucked out of your bed is not creepy enough. I'd woken up one night and seen 2 red eyes outside of the window and heard loud screams. I stared at it in hopes that it would go away, but it didn't, so I just ran to my parents' room and told them everything that happened. We bought pull-down blinds from a window the next day. Now for the scariest thing I've ever went through, the sleep paralysis. I've only had sleep paralysis 2 times in my life, and both times were in that apartment. The first time was more confusing than scary. In my dream, I'd woken up and sat in my bed as if I was getting out of bed for the day. I looked to my right and I saw my cat laying on the floor in my room. I said, "Aw, Sassy, you're so cute." And my cat sat up and looked at me, but her eyes seemed a lot bigger than normal. My cat has naturally huge eyes, so I didn't think much of it until my cat stood up, opened her mouth as tall as me, and began to sprint towards my bed. Oh my god, I can only fucking imagine. Oh my fucking god. Bitch sees this cat whose mouth is 6 feet tall. Okay, I'm assuming you're not 6 feet tall. Sees this cat whose mouth is 5'2". Let me know if I'm right. So running at you. His mouth is open that wide, or he was that tall? His mouth was that tall? I then woke up and proceeded to have a panic attack. Reminder, this wasn't the scary sleep paralysis experience. The scary experience was when I was physically affected by the experience. I'd woken up during the night and was going to get up and go to my parents' room. I was young and did this every time I would wake up during the night, which was very frequently, but I couldn't move. I began to panic because I didn't know what sleep paralysis was at the time, and I thought I was actually paralyzed. I saw a white figure walk near me and began talking, so I tried to talk to them, but nothing came out of my mouth. I listened to what they were saying, and they were looking at me and said, Bring me the defibrillator. We have to proceed. I literally had to look up how to say that, and I'm not ashamed. I was super confused and scared, but I couldn't do anything but sit and watch. I saw the white figure turn on the fuck, I already forgot how to say it.
Defibrillator.
I saw the white figure turn on the defibrillator and began to rub the two plate things together. Oh, is that the zzz thing? The figure then placed them on my chest and I felt my body bounce up on contact. I started to cry and attempted to scream again as I thought I was dying. I was shocked about 3 more times before I shut my eyes as tight as I could. When I opened them, I was awake and I could move again. I ran to my parents' room and I've told a small amount of people about it since it happened. I've never written a story or a post on here before, so I'm not sure if this was long or not, but I hope it wasn't too confusing or hard to keep up with. It really wasn't at all. So yes, I lived in a Civil War hospital and it was awful. I haven't lived there in over 5 years and I haven't had any paranormal activity in my current home. Hope you enjoyed it. Courtney, if you're reading this, you're amazing. Love you and your content. I love you, bitch. But I'm very sorry for the shit that you went through. And I actually think Gettysburg is on my list of places that I really want to go, but that's a very long list, so I'm not sure if I'll make it anytime soon. Maybe I'll go visit your old apartment. Probably not, because I don't want any of that shit happening to me. Okay, this one, the title honestly just freaked me the fuck out. It says, "The demon that pretended to be my mom." My childhood home always felt eerie. You never felt alone, yet you never wanted to leave. My friends stopped sleeping over when I was a child because they were too afraid of things they experienced before I'd even shared mine. I have a lot of scary stories from that house, but one that scared me to my core and still gives me nightmares is the day a demon or spirit pretended to be my mom. It's a short story, so I'll include a few other experiences below it, along with another short story. Scroll down to find it if you want to skip the snippets of weird experiences. I would never skip y'all stories ever. I want to hear it all. All of these are true and 100% traumatizing. I don't think I've spoken of them to anybody except my husband because they're still incredibly scary and haunt me. I skipped school that day. I pretended to be sick. My mom knew I was faking it but let me stay home anyways. Me every fucking day of my life. Until high school, then I really just had stomach pains all the time because I was anxious. Had to poop. During lunchtime, we spoke over the phone so she could check in on me and see how everything was going. I was home alone, I have no siblings, and my mom works over an hour away, and my dad too. The only thing with me was my family dog. Several minutes went by after we hung up and I went to my room to watch TV. My room was above the garage. I heard nothing but the TV. I walked down the hall to the kitchen to get something, and to my surprise, I hear the garage door to the outside opening. I hear a car door open and close. Then I hear somebody come in from the basement door in the same voice my mom did every day. "Hi honey, I fucking forgot what the story was called." And so I was reading that really calm, but now I understand what's happening. I felt a rush through my body. There's no way, I thought. My mom works so far and she just said she had to get back to her students. She's a teacher. I heard someone walk into the laundry room, rattle around, open and close the dryer. "Mom?" No response. "Mom, that's not funny." Still no response. I was shaking and ran down the stairs because whatever joke she was pulling was not funny. The lights were off as usual and nobody was there. No cars in the garage lights off, meaning nobody opened the garage. I grabbed the phone and ran up the stairs outside sobbing. I called my mom in a panic. She had no explanation for what I experienced but told me to ignore it and to leave me alone. Oh my god, I'd be like, what am I supposed to do? Just sit there and just be like, My mom has always had a sense to things paranormal. She would know before someone died or if something was wrong with them before someone told her. She could hear, see, and feel spirits, same with me. As she got older, she said she grew out of touch with it. My childhood house was eerie growing up. Every night you could hear people walking up and down the stairs. You could hear old music playing as if it were off in the distance and chattering as if a crowd of people from the 40s were in your basement. We've had things move, things disappear, things thrown, things go missing from right beside you. You go and look for it, come back and find it's right where you left it. I've had that shit happen too, and it pissed me off. I was actually watching one of my old videos yesterday. This is like really random, but I knew I had videos with my dogs in it and I just got really sad. Like I said, my video from Friday is like about dogs and animal abuse, and so I got sad. I just like wanted to watch videos of me loving my dogs because I love my fucking dogs. Oh, okay, I can't sit on my knees anymore, I'm sweating. And so I watched the intro of the video because that's where my dogs were, and then I just kept watching it for some reason, and I talked about how in my old apartment in Louisville where we used to do the Ouija board all the time, my TV remotes kept going missing. Like I have two TVs and they both have the same remote, and I still to this day only have one remote. I have no fucking idea what happened to it. I lived in a tiny ass apartment. When I moved obviously all of my stuff. I never found it, and then I moved again when I moved to Arizona and I still haven't found it. And I know that fucking T hid it because she'd hide my shit all the time. She hid my lighting one time and I couldn't find it for months, and then one day it literally just appeared on the floor just in plain sight, and I was like, this was not here before. And then I couldn't find one remote, and one day we couldn't find the other one, and so I literally said out loud, I was like, this is not funny. I'm like, you already took one remote, give me the second one. And then it was just there on the floor in between my two chairs where we had already looked. So trust me, I feel you. It's annoying. The child rocking chair would rock on its own in my parents' room, so they moved it to another corner and stacked pillows on it. That's just creepy. They refused to get rid of it. It's small, like a larger doll or toddler would sit in it. I don't know where they got it, and I never understood why they refused to even move it out of their bedroom. Creeps me out even thinking about it. When I was younger, too often did my friends tell me they saw a little girl or heard her, and that was before they stopped coming over. Things got weird as I grew up. My parents changed. They weren't mom and dad anymore. I can't explain it. Just wasn't the same people anymore. And then this is another short scary story. My parents had an attic above my room, but it had no floorboards. Anything or anyone that went up there would essentially fall through the ceiling. For years at night, you could hear scratching or walking like heavy boots or running like children up there. Of course, anytime I tried to show my parents, it stopped. It got so bad that it would happen in the daytime too. Some nights it was just scratching, some nights it was just heavy boots. Others, it was just the sounds of children or a child running across the non-existing floor up there. Finally, one morning before gymnastics practice, it was happening. I ran so fast and caught my mom into my room and she heard it. It startled her, but she brushed it off as a squirrel. A rational explanation. No, I'd be like, Mom, it's not a squirrel. My dad was confused by it too. They called a guy to come check it out. He heard it too, but this time it sounded like heavy boots pounding up there. Like, okay, I understand maybe explaining the children running around as a squirrel, but the boots? The boots, bitch? My camera stopped recording and I'm sweating. He got on his ladder that morning and went up there. Halfway up, he shined his flashlight across either side of the attic, only to scream and fall from his ladder. He told my dad that it isn't an animal up there and ran out of my house to his truck and sped off. Shut the fuck up. What did he see? Leaving all of his tools ladder and without being paid. I can only imagine what he saw. He never came back and never returned my parents' phone calls. We never found out what happened, and we never found out what that noise was. What did he see? My parents got the house blessed yearly. My mom only a handful of times admitted she knew the house was haunted. Other times she denied it. Too often you heard or saw a little girl or something pretending to be my mom. There were times I'd be talking to her, then realized she wasn't in the room and was talking to the thing that pretends to be her. We wanted to move, but we didn't. It was like something kept you going back to that house. I consider myself lucky. I've moved away several times, but always found myself going back. I hate this story. That was several years ago, and I've not gone back since. I never will. That house, whatever is there, wants to keep you from leaving. My parents remain there, and we don't talk anymore. I haven't had a relationship with them since I moved away. Your parents are possessed. Please reach out to your parents. Please just like text them and be like, I love you. I hope everything's okay, because I want to know if they're okay. And I would absolutely lose my shit if my mom was talking to me and she wasn't home. I don't know. No. Okay, this last story is called First Time, and it sounds inappropriate, but I promise it's not. This is not about sex. They said, hi Courtney, ladies and germs, my name is Kristen. I'm complete trash at writing. This is your warning, so I apologize in advance. I'm a huge fan of Courtney's scary stories she reads on her channel, and I wanted to share my first time playing the Ouija board. First up, I would like to give a brief backstory. I grew up in one of the most haunted cities in the US, Savannah, Georgia. Even though I had heard of people having ghostly experiences, I never thought I would ever encounter a ghost myself. I was about 13 years old when I stopped believing in God and refused to go to church. Later on, at around age 15 or 16, I was looking into different beliefs, as this time of my life is when things began to change with my mental health, and I was not getting any comfort from the medical professionals I was seeing. So I turned to books, where I discovered Wicca. Is it Wicca? Is it Wicca? I soon became fascinated by paganism and the other spiritual beliefs that fall under the umbrella of Wicca. The story begins. I was 22 and living in Virginia, the eastern shore of Virginia to be exact. It's a sliver of land that runs along the east coast of the US. It has quite a bit of history, and even though it's a fairly small place, it has many cemeteries. So on Halloween, my friend Megan and I decided that after work we would play the Ouija board in a nearby cemetery. I already hate the start to this. We worked at the same restaurant and neither of us got off until around midnight. One of the owners was very much into the spiritual beliefs, and the owners even claimed that the restaurant we worked in was haunted. But I'd worked there for a few months and I'd never experienced anything. Our boss had warned us about playing in the cemetery and advised us not to do it. But Megan and I did not fear spirits or otherworldly beings. Our boss, however, offered us salt to take with us for protection. She instructed us to draw a circle of salt around us before playing and ask for protection from Mother Moon. We took the salt and promised to use it. So after work, Megan and I changed out of our work clothes and ventured out to a nearby cemetery. The cemetery was literally across the street from where I lived. I figured after we were done with our late night social hour, we could drive back to my house and have a sleepover. All was well and good. We laid out a huge beach blanket and brought with us white candles and surrounded the area with the salt from our boss. There was a slight breeze in the air, but overall a nice evening to be outside. Because the cemetery did not have any lanterns or streetlights, we could see every star above. We started our session by quietly asking for protection as our boss instructed us to do. Then we placed our fingertips lightly on the planchette and asked, is there anybody who wants to speak with us? We waited what seemed like 10 minutes, glancing up at the night sky, and I suddenly felt the planchette moving beneath my fingers. I shot my glance from the stars to the board. The planchette landed on the letter G. Of course, Megan and I looked at each other with a concerning glance and asked each other in unison, did you do that? To which both of us shook our heads. The planchette began to move again and landed on the letter E. The planchette continued moving until it spelled out the name George. I immediately looked around at the tombstone surrounding us for the name. I didn't see a tombstone with the name George on it, so we asked, what do you want to tell us? Planchette began jerking around on the board, spelling out warning. Megan and I both glanced up at the other, still not believing that maybe she was the one moving it. Before we could ask what it wanted, it began to spell out sinner. We were both very confused, and I asked Megan to swear that she wasn't moving it. She told me she was barely resting her fingertips on the planchette, and we could both see it was true. We were both barely touching it. The candles we had lit around us began flickering, even though at the same time the air became still. We asked the spirit how old they were, and we received no response. One by one, the candles around us went out. Okay, that I don't like. The only things giving us light were the stars, as the moon was new and not seen this night. Suddenly, I started hearing whispers as if there was, oh God, I don't like this. I started hearing whispers as if there were groups of people right next to my ears. Megan screamed because she felt as if somebody was tugging on her hoodie. We got up quickly, grabbing the board, blanket, and leaving the candles behind. We ran as fast as our legs could carry us to my car and drove out of the cemetery like a bat out of hell. Once we were at my house, we tried calming ourselves down by turning on all the lights and opening a couple of beers. Okay, my way of unwinding. A couple of beers with the boys, a couple of beers with the spirits. We stayed up the rest of the morning just trying to talk through it, trying to convince ourselves that we just spooked ourselves, and none of it really happened. The next day was a Saturday, and we both had to work the night shift at the restaurant. We were both so tired. Once we had enough caffeine and had showers, we went into work where our boss asked us how the night before went. We played it cool and had agreed that morning that we would not tell anyone what we experienced. We went about our shift like normal and seemed to be unaffected by the Ouija session. Until closing, that is. Working in a restaurant, after every shift, the kitchen gets scrubbed and everything is reset. Our restaurant does not open on Sunday, so Saturday nights we do more to have things set up for Monday. One of the things I was required to do on Saturday night closing was to go to the far back room in the restaurant to get extra stock we keep to fill napkins, straws, salt, pepper shakers, and whatever. The room was within a room, if that makes sense. Let me elaborate. I like how you were just like, you're not gonna get it, so let me explain. The restaurant used to be an old fish house, where they used to have the room in the back used to process and cut the fish, and within that room was another room that was originally like a huge freezer. But the new owners turned it into an extra storage room. In this room, they kept extra supplies and huge traveling coolers for when they catered parties off-site. The coolers were stacked against the furthest wall on top of each other. On this particular night, we needed more napkins, so I went to the back room to get more. As I was walking through the first room, I swore I heard footsteps, so I called out to ask who was back there. No response. So I kept walking, and just as I got to the doorway of the second room, I saw the top cooler slide across the cooler it was sitting on and slam into the wall on the opposite side. I freaked the fuck out and went running to the door to the first room and glanced back as I grabbed the doorknob. The lights flickered and the door was jammed. Fuck, I kept twisting and turning the doorknob. I screamed my boss's name. Within seconds, my boss had the door open with a shocked look on her face. I grabbed her, holding on tightly, saying something was in the back room and I would not be able to get back there. My arms began to burn slightly. I looked down at my arms and there were faint scratch marks running down them. Megan, who was standing behind our boss, grabbed my hands, looking down at my arm, asking, "What did you do?" I told her I had no idea how the scratches got there. As soon as I said that, the door behind me slammed shut by itself. My boss soon began chanting something I didn't quite understand. I ran up to the front near the cash register. I was so scared. At that moment, if I had only known this was just the beginning, are you fucking kidding? I worked at that restaurant for 4 years before it was finally closed. I had many things happen to me, as well as seeing things occur with others while working there. I found out many secrets about the town as well and the family who owned the restaurant. I definitely had my doubts about the afterlife before working there, but every shred of doubt has been completely erased after experiencing the things that I did. If you like this story and want to read more, let me know, of course I want to read more. I think I've said it about 25 times at this point. Please don't fuck with Ouija boards, you guys. Please don't do it. Also, wait, with what you said at the end, how you were like, I had doubts about the afterlife, whatever. I still, to this day, don't understand how people can be skeptical of spirits or like paranormal stuff happening. I really don't understand how people don't believe in this. I've met people who are just like, no, none of it really happens. It's all in your head. There's like an explanation for everything, but there really fucking isn't. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you to everybody who has sent me stories. If you would like to send me more stories, I will have the subreddit link down below. I've noticed that people stopped using the flares as much, so if you're submitting a story to the Reddit, there are flares so you can mark it as Let's Not Meet Paranormal or No Sleep. Please continue to use those because it makes it a lot easier to find the stories. And if your story doesn't fall under any of the categories, that's fine. Just maybe put it in the title, I guess, like what category you think it would fall under. Although I guess I don't really know how it wouldn't fall under like a Let's Not. I don't know. If it's just like a random story that you just felt like telling me, then yeah, put it in the title. Just let me know. But anyways, I'm gonna go. I'm sweating. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye! And before all of you were like, you're wearing a jacket, that's why you're sweating. It's not my arms or like my armpits that are sweating. It's like underneath my knees and I'm wearing shorts, so shut up. It's like when I have my knees bent, it's like all the sweat you don't want to hear about my sweating. You really don't. And I know that you don't. But I tell you this stuff anyways because I just feel like we have that connection. I'll shut up. See ya!